Hello, my name is Jacqueline O'Neill, and to my left is Jax O'Neill. And say hi, Jax.
Hi.
And tonight I am going to be reading you my first children's book. It has yet to be published, but we're hoping to gain some momentum by reading it online. And it is called If Not Me, Then Who Will? And it was written a couple years ago, but we've been editing it and we've been working a lot on other things, but it's time to get these babies published. So we are going to start reading this book, If Not Me, Who Will? Just like any other day, Ray was walking home from school when he was about to pass some garbage on the ground. As he stepped past it, he stopped and looked down. If I don't pick this up, who will? He asked himself. So he bent down, gathered the garbage, and walked home. When he got home and walked through the door, his mom came over and was about to give him a hug, but he saw he had something in his hands. She said, "What's that?" "It's trash, Mom. I was walking home and I was about to walk past it, but I thought, if I don't pick it up, who will?" "Wow," his mom said, very proud of her son. Sometime later, the boy was at school and about to sit at a table with his friends, when he noticed a boy sitting all by himself. As he set his lunchbox down, yet the thought came to him, if you don't invite him to sit with you, who will? In spite of feeling awkward, he decided to walk over a few tables and said, "Hi, my name's Ray. Why don't you come and sit with me and my friends?" The boy kept his eyes down for a moment at the table, but he stood up and looked at Ray, and his eyes were relieved and hopeful. "Thank you, Ray. My name's Harper." Ray introduced Harper to all the boys and girls and made room for him to sit at the table. Harper smiled as he made new friends, and from that day forward, Ray and he became best friends. He was never left out again. As Ray grew up, he would often think to himself, if not me, then who? Being a teenager was hard for him because he didn't know his father, and he wished he had a man he could talk to. Other kids would bully him for being poor, dressing differently, and not going along with the cool crowd. Ray was different. He didn't care what others thought about him. He knew that being kind was more important than being cool. He realized that he was going to work harder than ever and not get distracted by what others thought of him. He had dreams and he had goals. Ray was determined to get good grades and be the best athlete he could be. He wanted to work hard because he knew that was the only way to become the person he wanted to be. He would not be distracted. Ray would not waste time on social media, video games, or watching movies. He would work out, practice sports, and read. Ray volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club whenever he had time. He helped less fortunate children learn to read or do math. He knew what it was like to struggle and need help. Ray was not interested in spending time with kids who were doing bad things because he was determined to succeed. He understood that real friends would stand by his side and be there no matter what. Harper, his best friend, always believed in him and made sure he stayed focused. Ray realized that those who were the rudest, meanest, and most arrogant were the ones who were hurting the most. He would often sit by these people, even if they didn't talk to him, so they knew he was someone who accepted them as they were and not going to judge them. Other times he would talk with them, cry with them, share his lunch with them, or even help them with their homework. When Ray grew up and became a man, he married a wonderful woman named Rio. Unfortunately, they could not have children. One day they heard about thousands of children in foster care who needed homes. The woman started crying and said to Ray, "If we don't help them, who will?" For many years, they took care of children of all ages, all colors, and even took care of children with special needs. This was very hard work, but it made them happy to know they could protect and love so many children who did not have families. John and Ria loved animals, especially dogs. It broke their hearts when they would see hungry, hurt, sick animals on the street. One day, one of their foster children came to them and said, "There's so many animals that need foster homes. If we don't help them, who will?" Ray and Rio knew that taking care of animals would be a big responsibility for their family, but agreed that they had to do something to make a difference. They decided to foster 2 or 3 animals at a time until they found good homes. And of course, they adopted a few along the way. Their foster children loved helping animals find homes. They knew that they were making a difference in the world and dreamed that one day they would too be adopted. Ray and Rio had big hearts, full of compassion and love. One day when they were outside their home, they noticed their neighbor's yard was overgrown and looked terrible. They knocked on the door and an old lady came out. They asked if they could help her with the yard or anything else. The old lady started to cry. She thanked them and said her husband had died and her children lived far away and were too busy to keep in touch to help her. That night, Ray and Rio gathered their children around and said, "There's an old lady down the street. Her name is Ruth. And if we don't help her, who will?" Their children jumped up and said, "We want to help." Ray, Rio, and their foster children would help Ruth whenever she needed them. They would mow her yard, take her to the store, clean her house, and even have her over for dinner. She had become part of their family. One day, Ruth had to go to the hospital. She was so old, she couldn't live at home anymore. She went to live in a home for old people. Ray, Rio, and their foster children knew that nobody was visiting her, so they said, "If we don't visit her, who will?" They would visit her often. While they visited her, they met many more old men and women who didn't have anyone visiting them. So they said, "If we don't visit them, who will?" They would visit many lonely men and women at the care home. The foster children loved the old people, and the old people loved the foster children. The old people would tell them stories about their lives and encourage them to work hard so they could have good lives and families when they grew up. The foster children would sit with them and play cards and games. They would read books or the news to them, and they were very happy. As the years passed, Rio and Ray became tired. They were happy because they had helped so many children, animals, and people. But one day, Rio didn't feel well, and soon afterwards, she passed away. This broke Ray's heart. He was now old, lonely, and sad. His foster children were grown up and had families now, and his animals were gone too. One day, Ray didn't feel well, and he went to the hospital, and he didn't leave. He was very sick. He slept most of the time, but one day he opened his eyes, and he saw people all around. He rubbed his eyes and looked again to make sure it wasn't a dream. He tried to sit up, but he was too weak, and the nurse came and helped him. As he looked around the room, he started to recognize the faces that were looking at him. One was his best friend, Harper, who they had asked to join him at lunch in 5th grade. Others were those he helped in high school, and many others were his foster children, and others he had helped find homes for foster animals. His eyes filled quickly with tears, and he managed to ask, "Are you here?" And they replied, "If we didn't come, who would? If we don't, who will?" These were the words he lived by, and these are the words he died by. Now Ray asks you and I, if you don't help, who will? And that is the story. If not me, who will?